Now I know we're all counting down to One Piece 1020, but I want to cast our minds back to One Piece 1017, because that chapter was absolutely fire. And I think for most theorists, it was like Christmas, because the amount of theories that can be made from the information we were given in that chapter is almost too good to be true. Now today's video is going to be on MADS, or should I say the acronym MADS, which for those of you who've read the chapter know is the insane research team that was explained by Queen and Sanji. However, if you haven't read the chapter, this is where I say stop. Go and read the chapter and come back, because there's a few things to discuss and I don't want to spoil it for those of you who've not caught up. But since I've asked you guys and girls to stop momentarily, I would also appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video, because that always helps out with the YouTube algorithm. And also, if you would like to subscribe to my channel, please do, because one, it does help me grow, but two, because the YouTube analytics tells me that there's a lot of returning watchers and it appears that some of you have not subbed to the channel, so it would be great if you all joined the journey too. But lastly, before I get started, make sure you check out the Void Century Club forum, in which I'll leave a link to in the description to this video. But without dwelling anymore, let's get into this video. So in One Piece chapter 1017, with Queen identifying that Otama was to blame for some of the Smile users changing sides, Queen looked to take out Otama with some sort of laser beam or blast breath type attack. However, before he could actually do this, he was met by a Collier strike kick by Sanji, which ultimately led to the discussion of Queen being part of this insane research team named MADS. And so what I want to do here is take a look at who we can assume were the members of MADS, what they've achieved, and ultimately how this might actually give us an idea as to what the SSG are or may be able to do. Now the first member who has to have been a member of MADS is Caesar Clown. And don't kill me here, because I know this isn't confirmed, but hear me out. When we were introduced to him in Punk Hazard, not only was he working on the gigantification research on behalf of Big Mom, but I believe his main scientific feat is the production of SAD, or acronym SAD, which is effectively the main substance that's needed to create the Smile Devil Fruits, which we know now produces the artificial Zone Devil Fruits. Now another key link we have for Caesar Clown is his link to Vegapunk, and apologies for not checking before recording this, but I'm pretty sure in episode 589 of the anime, or possibly 560, Smoker actually tells us that Caesar and Vegapunk used to be colleagues. Now one thing I'd like to mention is that I believe out of all the members, Caesar is potentially the most useless, as he seems to be ripping off the work that has already been done. We find out from Shinobu that the SAD formula is only about 10% effective, and to be honest, this has all stemmed from Caesar's research. Plus, if we look at the gigantification procedures that he was conducting, I think it would be safe to say that they were probably about 10% effective too. But if you're asking me why I think it's important to mention Caesar, that would be because I believe he's part of the bigger story, and that the experiments he's conducted so far are going to be key to what we see from the SSG. So do keep listening, because I promise you I'm building up to it. Now the second member that was a part of MADS was of course Vinsmoke Judge, and this was confirmed in the Whole Cake Island arc by Yonji. Now it appears that Vegapunk and Judge were both researching the Lineage factor, which for those of you who don't know what it is, it's basically the blueprint to life itself, well, within One Piece. So effectively, all things have a lineage factor, and so ultimately when one eats a devil fruit, their lineage factor changes and allows them to get this crazy power that the fruit provides. But in the case of Vinsmoke Judge, it appears after the world government chased down this research team and him and Vegapunk went their separate ways, Judge was more interested in the possibility of creating clones, and as I mentioned, this was confirmed by Yonji, as he told Sanji that the people being kept in the bottle-like tanks were actually the soldiers of Germa 66, and without going into too much detail, he gave the explanation that the soldiers are clones of past exceptional soldiers, and that a 20-year-old clone could be grown just within 5 years. But why is that important? And once again I bring up the SSG. Clearly Lineage Factor has shown how much it can do, and we've probably only scratched the surface of it. But I wouldn't be shocked if, just like the perfection of Devil Fruit, Vegapunk had perfected the cloning Lineage Factor. Let's say the ability to create a 20-year-old in just 1 year versus the 5 years. That could certainly be extremely significant. The next member of MADS, as we all found out, is Queen. And Queen's one is quite strange, because there's a few things we've learned about Queen so far. But outside of his quirky nature, he is actually quite a talented individual. He is a mechanic, and clearly with the epithet of the Plague, it's clear that he was able to invent deadly weapons such as the Excite bullets, which spread the deadly ice disease on the live floor, which easily spread, and of course he's clever enough to have developed an antidote to reverse its effects. Also, if I'm not mistaken, he actually created the mummy virus used in Udon prison that was basically used on the prisoners and Luffy. And it's really interesting that we've seen this from Queen, because it also reminds me of Zoe, where we saw Jack use that poisonous gas that Caesar created to take out the minks. But before I digress on that any further, there's a lot more to Queen, because during chapter 1017, we saw Queen's hybrid form, and he actually explained how he was a cyborg. And the reason I say this is probably the most interesting is because he has been able to enhance his body with cyborg enhancements just like Frankie, but almost even one step further, as Queen has a devil fruit. Has this required the understanding of the Lineage Factor to incorporate weapons which include cannons and laser beams with his devil fruit? I think this is fantastic, and it leads on to the last confirmed member. And that member is Vegapunk. To all of us, Vegapunk is the unknown, but evidently it appears that a lot of the untold exciting things in One Piece link back to him somehow. When I began this video, I spoke about looking at the members of MADS and how this could link with the SSG, and ultimately I believe Vegapunk is the glue that holds everything together. If we look at what I've said about Caesar, he had the gigantification experiments alongside the production of SAD. But when defeated by the Straw Hats and Law and captured by Smoker Tashigi and their unit, the test children were effectively taken to Vegapunk. Could Vegapunk have perfected the gigantification process? And secondly, we know that Caesar's SAD formulas were not complete, and he couldn't perfect the making of devil fruits completely. However, if we look at the devil fruit that Vegapunk left in Punk Hazard using Kaido's Lineage Factor, we know that fruit is perfect as Momonosuke has eaten it. So clearly Vegapunk has perfected the creation of devil fruits using the Lineage Factor research. Looking at Judge's cloning research and Queen's love for bioengineering, this appears as something that Vegapunk might have perfected too. We've seen that Vegapunk was able to create the pacifistas using Kuma as the base case. And just like Queen, they can shoot lasers, and they're basically just like Frankie. But one thing I must mention that people forget is that Frankie highlighted that these pacifistas are still humans underneath, and they're capable of bleeding. So what if Vegapunk has been able to take it a step further and been able to recreate and improve Judge's cloning, and just like Queen, been able to turn these individuals into cyborgs? This could be the foundations to the SSG. Think about it. Individuals who can be cloned in a shorter time frame than Judge's 5 years for a 20-year-old. Given a devil fruit, created through Lineage Factor, just like Momonosuke's was created through Kaido. They're then turned into cyborgs just like the pacifistas, and all of this comes together in order to create the SSG. Now ultimately, this might sound a bit trash, but can you imagine how OP the SSG would be? An army of broken devil fruit users that are cyborgs, to an extent, but can be replaced almost instantaneously using a cloning Lineage Factor. That could potentially be the power that replaces the Warlords, a power that 80% of the seas could not deal with. Now of course they may not live up to the likes of a Mihawk, but there's not many pirates that could anyways. But I guess we'll find out soon, because that just about does it from me. The introduction of MADS is one that I'm not sure we'll get any further clarification on until we actually do see Vegapunk, who I'm hoping that we do see soon. But I'd be interested to know who you all think were in MADS, what you think the acronym stands for, And do you think the research they conducted has been used to create the SSG? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, I appreciate all of you that have made it this far. And if you have, then please make sure you leave a like on the video, and also make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss out when I drop more content just like this. Safe.